My name is Jake Fortenberry. We're in Denver, Colorado. Today's date is May 20th, 1997. I'm representing the History Department of Abilene Christian University, 12th Armored Division. Sir, can you state your full name and your battalion and unit?
Well, my name is Clark Livingston, and I was in the band. I played trumpet in the division band, and during combat we were all made MPs.
Okay.
Prisoner control and traffic control.
Just start at the beginning here. When you growing up, like in the 20s and 30s,
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
My home was La Crosse, Wisconsin. Yeah.
You remember anything special about it or unique?
I'm just glad to get out of it. No, right in the Mississippi River. Yeah, it was a nice place to live. Matter of fact, there were quite a few guys in our outfit that came from La Crosse. So that's all I know about it.
What did your parents do for a living?
Well, my father didn't live that long. He was a salesman, and he died of a heart attack when he was 53. And my mother never did any work in her life, except raise me.
I'm sure that was quite a bit of work.
But La Crosse is a very productive community. It's an industrial center, and it's right on the Mississippi River, and so a lot of tourists and the excursion boats go up and down from St. Louis out to Minneapolis. So there was a lot of good summer activity.
What do you remember about the Depression?
About the Depression?
Yes, sir.
Pretty hard up. We were pretty hard up. Had very little or nothing, and it was just one of those things. I was too young to know how serious it was. And my grandfather was a very successful person, so we ate down there when we could. And other than that, I was just so active in Boy Scouts, I didn't think about it.
You graduated high school?
Yeah, La Crosse Central High School, and then I came out to Colorado, and it was A&M College at the time at Fort Collins. I transferred out there to major in forestry. And then I woke up to the fact that I said to my wife, I don't think I want forestry. All these guys that are in forestry, I've got the only way they advance is to move from one log cabin to another. I said, I don't want to raise kids that way. So I changed my major to botany and plant pathology.
Do you remember where you were and what your general feelings were when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I remember the day it happened. I was a paper route. I was downtown selling papers on the corner. In those days, you had a corner, and I had the corner of Main Street. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just, there it is. It didn't really hit home as to what was going on. But I was selling papers, and I developed quite a lot of, I guess, hatred, you might say. But I had no Japanese friends, so I had no reason to hate anybody. I just hated them all. And then later on, as I became a professional, I hired a Japanese guy, and we were fine together. So that was a temporary thing, just an attitude. But I was an active Boy Scout, so I couldn't very well develop hate. I was not supposed to. And I was an Eagle Scout, so I went through the whole panel,
Yeah.
And that was it. And I married. God, she was lucky.
What did you do any work or anything before you joined the Army?
Yeah, I was a guide at Highlandman Brewery. And I used to conduct tours through the brewery. And that was it. Then the war.
What did you join the Army, or were you drafted, or?
Oh, no, they take me by the... No, I was drafted. I had to be because my mother and my brother were dependent on me. And so that was a 19... Can't remember. Anyway, I was a draftee, yeah. But I remember I was a band leader too. I had my own orchestra. In those days, I was gainfully employed. Yeah, I was playing, and I remember they were recruiting down there in Camp Campbell when we landed there. This lieutenant walked all the way across this big field house. He saw me, and he said, "Aren't you Bob Clark?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I've danced to your band. Come on, you're going to be in the band." And of course, my mother thought, "Boy, you could be safe." That's so. Well, they made MPs out of us. And I remember the comment made by the general at the time. See, in World War I, musicians were made litter bearers, carry stretchers out. And he made a comment about there was more collective IQ in that band than there's in the whole division. Because a lot of the guys had gone to college, they were graduates.
Yeah.
So they made MPs out of us, and we were in traffic control or prisoner control. I was in both. And I did very well with German, so I just picked up on it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of handy. And that was it. I got discharged in 1946. And I was married in 47. 48 we came to Colorado.
You mentioned Camp Barkley. Was that where you
Yeah.
went? Was it the first place you went?
Yeah. No,
When you got
let's see.
drafted?
Gee whiz. Would that be right, or would it have been Campbell? Camp Campbell. Yeah. And I was a musician and trumpet player, and I had to train the 23rd Tank Battalion on bugle calls because Colonel Megg wanted me to run the events by bugle calls. It didn't make me very happy, but so that's the way it goes.
What do you remember about Camp Campbell? I mean,
Oh,
weather or
no.
the barracks? Was it?
Oh, I don't remember much about that. Plywood jungle, and there wasn't much Clarksville and Hopkins. Am I talking about Hoptown?
Hoptown,
Yeah,
Clarksville.
in Clarksville. That's all there was. Just those little dinky towns, but we, as a band, we were on touring all the time. We were in the back of the trucks, and putting on concerts every place.
So you didn't have to do most of the maneuvers or go out in the field a whole lot?
Oh yeah, we had to do all that too. They could hardly wait to get even with us. There wasn't going to be any goofing around. So they wanted me to go to OCS. So I said, okay. The night before I was to leave, this little guy from Hawaii, been in the Army all his life, he said, "You don't want to go to there. They just shoot you up like cannon fodder." So I didn't go. So I stayed in the band, and that was it.
While you were back in the States, before, of course, they made you traffic control or prisoner control, what was y'all's job besides, like when you went to the field, what did the band do on the maneuvers?
Oh, well, what the bands usually did was dig latrines. But the whole point was that I wasn't an MP until we were in combat.
Yeah.
And overnight we had to join that, learn what we had to know. I took real easy to German. It just fell on me. A lot of prisoners wanted to talk to me, and so I picked up on German pretty well. So I was interrogating. And I thought that was a rather responsible thing to be doing. And so, a Heine I was. But we had some real close calls. We had, I was talking to Bill Funky on the way up about this. We had at the university, we had a lot of visiting firemen, they called them, guys that would come from professors from other countries and that we were specialized in. And this one fellow came in, he sat down. I just looked at him, and he looked at me, and God, I've seen you before. I had taken him prisoner. And so we got a conversation with that one little ways. I became a specialist in potato disease. And I guess through that I was dealing with this particular guy. And I've been all over the world on potato disease as a consultant. The big food companies and a lot of people don't realize that, but the chip industry lives on potatoes that have to be stored. And some of them don't want to be stored. They're rotting in the field. And so I'd have to go out in the field and look at these and recommend that these not be purchased or whatever it is. So it was, I did 20 years of that consulting, in addition to being a professor at the university.
So you were at Camp Campbell, and then they moved y'all down to Camp Barkley.
Yeah, I think that was the way it was, yeah.
And what did y'all, do you remember anything about Camp Barkley or about Abilene?
Trumpet. No, we just played a lot. We just were playing all the time. We were the only entertainment there was. And so they worked their tails off. And we had some very fine musicians from Juilliard's Eastman School of Music, you know, the big ones. And so we had a lot of concerts, a lot of dances. T5s danced with T4s. But no, it was an enjoyable thing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the musicians. They were all very good people. We'd have some goofballs. Some of them were not. They were just squirrely.
Remember any of the goofballs in particular, or anything they used to do?
No, I don't remember that. If I did, I wouldn't tell you their name. But they were there. They had their oddities, you know. And so that's the way it was. You just lived together. And I never played cards, which was kind of a drawback. Some guys just were vicious about it. No, I never. I used to play some chess or something like that, but I never played cards. So there was not much for me to do except practice. So I became a rather accomplished musician. And then when I came back from the service, I restarted my band again. I had a partner by the name of Bob Gardner, and he played trumpet with me, and so we formed the band together again, as we had, and that's where the name came from, Bob Clark. You never use your own name on a band. Lawrence Welk did, but that's foolish, because if somebody blackballs you, you've got a reputation. And so I played after the war too.
Other than being trumpet player, did you have any other responsibilities in the band, or was
No.
that your total job, was just to be trumpet?
In the Army band?
Yes, sir.
KP. Everybody had to go through that. They liked it. It seemed like they delighted in cornering the band, putting them on these menial tasks. We had one clarinet player that was doing dishes one time, and I think the colonel is the one that saw it. He said, "Get him out of here. He's got one pair of hands." See, he took very seriously to that, you know. He said, "Infantry guy cut his hand off, that's all right, but they got to have that clarinet." So, yeah, we had some good musicians. We had some squirrely ones, like everything.
What do you remember about when y'all were leaving Camp Barkley, headed to Camp Shanks up there in New York? How'd y'all travel?
That was hell, because we were on that train. I think I get it all right now. We left Barkley to go on the train, and we came to Camp Shanks. And the next day, I knew we were in New York City. We had overnight furlough. So everybody went to town. It was just kind of a lost cause. What the hell do you do in this big town? And the next day we were on our way. But it was a boring ride. There was nothing to do but lots of people waving at us as we went by. They knew we weren't the Amtrak. So mothers and daughters, you know, the whole thing.
Well, what type of vehicle did y'all have to carry all y'all stuff around?
Oh,
Was it
we
just a
were
truck
hauling
or a half track.
No, 2.5-ton trucks, you know. Everything was up on the truck, down on the ground, up on the truck, down on the ground, jumping around. Oh, it was a typical. Nothing fancy about that. And most of the guys would jump off the truck, and sometimes they'd fall on their horns. And everybody, they weren't any real athletes in the bunch. You know, we were just a bunch of sissies. Been fostered people, you know, just, no. So it was 2.5-ton truck the whole time. And we all had our training. We'd been in the tanks too. Anything to get out of that damn tank. Because we knew darn well that if you're in that tank, you're not going to last long. You ever been in one?
Yes, sir.
It's a trap.
Well, I was an infantryman, so I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a real trap on fire. I can remember some horrible things like tank getting hit, and you could hear those screams for a mile away. Gasoline, high-test gas, you know. But that's the way it was. Germans had the same problems. A lot of that just pretty much blank to me. You know, all those things happened, and it just happened, and when it was over, why we came home.
Yeah. What do you remember about the ship ride over there?
Well, we went over on the boat was the Empress of Australia. It was a British boat that had been captured by the British from the Germans and been renamed that way. And it was it was just another boat ride. But I know what we were sinking. That boat had been had taken a load of German prisoners to New York from Africa, and it had been hit. The dang boat was put into storage long enough to empty out these dead Germans in those compartments, in those rooms. Loaded up with water and food, put us on it, and away we went. And the boat was listing almost all the way over. Well, you know, it's like this. They'd get 1,500 guys to go over on the other side of the boat. We had no idea what was going on. But that damn boat was sinking. So we were not too thrilled. We knew something was wrong. But that's all I remember about that boat trip. It was just boring as all get out. Well, we had to worry about submarines, of course, you know. Every time you see a light off in the horizon, that's trouble. And so the Heinies were after us. Well, we were 1,500 men on that boat. And the armored division, well, they wanted to get us out of this. They didn't want us to land.
Mm-mm.
And if I recall, we had the tanks and everything on the boat. No wonder it was listening. Yeah.
Y'all stopped in England for a little while, didn't you? On the way over.
On the way over, I'm kind of at a loss on that.
Tidworth Barracks.
Tidworth Barracks. Oh yes, British post. Yeah. Yeah, we stayed. I was. Oh God, the concert started again. We had everything going for us, but always our horns had to bring her in because we were the only thing that the guys had going for them was the band. We meant an awful lot to those guys, but it's hard to remember exactly. But Tidworth Barracks, I remember that.
Yeah. Did you guys get, other than playing a bunch, did y'all get to go out and see any of England at all?
Oh yeah, wild. Yeah, wild people all over town, all over everything. Oh, and the guys, the girls loved us. They loved the GIs. Oh yeah. Well, why wouldn't they? We had gum, kalkumi. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And the kids, kids would just line up all of the streets, you know, and every time we go someplace, kaugummi, chewing gum. And yeah, we were popular people. And the band, I think, was very popular because we had something they could admire. They saw the horns and they liked the music. Yeah, that was a nice time. Tidworth Barracks. Very, very British. All you needed was a bagpipe.
Do you remember anything about the landing at Le Havre and what went on there?
No, I don't. I just remember it.
Well,
But I don't remember anything about it.
what do you remember about just in general crossing the Channel, going from England to France?
Well, I thought that's where we were gonna go down. They were getting pretty desperate at that time because we were within shore range, you know, big guns. And I knew that they must have been aware that we had a boat problem. And we didn't have a lot of maneuverability. So I was surprised somebody just didn't lay a big one right on top of us. But that's pretty faint. But I do remember we were down on D deck. You know what D deck is? Well, that's right on the bottom. And when one of those landmines or shells would go, boom, the whole boat would just shake to beat like a skeleton, you know. Which reminds me, I was thinking on the way up, my grandson is 7th grade. They took him up to Wyoming to see that dinosaur place. And I said, Cole, he's a very bright kid. I said, did you, you going to tell me a dinosaur story? He says, yeah, the one looked in my window last night. It's funny how you remember things like that. And yet, the trip to the Havre, no, I don't remember much about it.
Do you remember, I mean, when you got there in France, how were the French people, the civilians? How
Hated us. They hated us with a passion. Those damn Americans. They really didn't treat us nice at all. And it was a strange feeling because we're going to save you bums. And you treat us like dogs. No, it was a rough time. The reception wasn't too great. And I'm really pretty foggy as to what we did or how we did it or what, but I don't even remember where we stayed. But it wasn't any comfort hotel, I know that.
Oh, I believe that, sir. Did you do you remember where y'all went or who you got assigned to over there as a division?
I mean, as a division?
Yeah.
No. Let's go, that's all I remember.
Did you do anything or participate in the Battle of Hurlshan?
Sure did, but I don't remember a thing about it. Yeah, I remember that street fighting. That was rough. And it was hard to tell who was who. I mean, the French people, you couldn't depend on it. What the hell are you doing here? Stabbed you as soon as looked at you. They didn't want us there. So it was not very compatible with anything we tried to do. But that was a rough battle.
When at what town were you already in Germany? Were you still in France when they brought you guys from being a band to doing MP duty?
Oh, that was right off the bat. Right off the bat, we were MPs right off the bat. And yeah, we had to go right to work on them. You know, interrogating German prisoners. And now the other job we had was traffic control. You have to imagine how important that was. Did you see the movie Patton?
Yes, sir.
You remember Patton comes down the hill in this empty field. There's a tank sitting there and another one, and they're crosswise. And somebody had missteered one of the columns. When you get a column of tanks crosswise, you're in trouble. So our job was to direct the traffic and keep them in the right place. So we had a lot of secret information. I remember a lot of meetings where we'd have to write some notes down. We had to swallow them. Yeah, there wasn't anybody leaving stray paper around. And so, yeah, we had to learn fast.
Because what was the secret stuff that what was so concerning?
Oh, well, we had to erase all the numbers on our vehicles. You're not the 12th Armored. You're just somebody. And that was a pretty prominent thing. Don't give away your unit number. And that was, I thought, was very interesting because interrogating German prisoners, well, those heinies would tell me anything I wanted. They just opened up like a book. They wanted to be well treated as prisoners. They didn't, hell with everybody else, just me as an individual. I want to be well taken care of as a prisoner.
As a prisoner, did they generally behave right, or did you
Oh
have
no,
problems?
they behaved real well. The biggest problem was with the Germans. They were so doggone hard up and so destitute. We'd have to search them for knives and stuff under the armpits. And that leads to an interesting story. Loaded with fleas. And one day I was doing the usual thing, and I looked down, every hair on my body was covered with those eggs. I was just crawling with them. So I ran there was a creek going by with a bridge on it. I ran over to that creek with a cold water razor and had to shave all the hair off of it that I could. And that didn't have any barber salt either. So then all of a sudden I heard this, there's a Messerschmitt spotted me. You know what I'm talking about, a Messerschmitt airplane? Yes, he starts diving, he starts strafing on me. And I mean, he was going here and there, almost between my legs, you know. And I hid under the bridge, and then he kind of laid off of me. But if I had stayed there, I wouldn't be here. Oh yeah, those were typical things. Another one that was very important, girls. Oh, we had a lot of trouble with girl prisoners. They had a knack for hiding weapons in some of the doggonedest places, and they did too. A 25 caliber pistol like that, hidden in the proper place. And they'd get ready and they'd be in the, and nail the guy that was guarding the prisoners. And so you had to be careful of everything. I mean, you couldn't trust those French. The frogs, we called them. That's all they were. And the kids were harmless, but they wanted to be part of the war, you know. So they were doing foolish things. And you had to protect yourself against the kids, because if you didn't, why, they'd nail you. And, that's just combat stuff, you know. And sometimes it gets worse, and sometimes there'd be times when it was just boring. And then there were times when it wasn't. But we were all equipped with carbine rifles. It's rather short for in a tank, you know. And none of the big M1s and all that stuff. That was basic training. So here we were with those carbines, and we didn't have sidearms, so we'd steal them from the Germans. I had Lugers all over my hips, and I wouldn't have hesitated to use them either. But the infantry stuff, the heavy M1 rifle, no, we didn't do that. That was in training, that's all. You know, as you stop and think about this whole thing, it's one big puddle of gamish. And little things come out, but you can't think of them at the time. But something will trigger off something, and you say, oh, I remember that. And probably insignificant, but it was something that happened. And I remember my mother, she kept saying, oh, my son's in the band. He's going to be safe. Nope. Well, that wasn't the way it was.
Was it hard being gone with your mother and your little brother at home?
No. No, I didn't have any trouble with that. No, not at all. I had a job to do. And the draft board said so. Yeah. No. But I was more than glad to get out, I know that, because I remember I was talking to one of the boys on the way up when I was discharged in camp from Fort Sheridan. We had a card table sitting there with an officer at it, and he was trying to recruit us for permanent service. Oh boy. Bye. No, that didn't go. So he tried the National Guard, tried everything to get us to stay in the service somewhere in there. No, home.
Did you assist any in the liberations of the death camps when you were coming through Germany, or any of the prisons?
The death camps, you mean the German?
Yes, sir.
Or the Jews? No.
Or even the prisons with political prisoners or POWs?
But you see, I got a nose like mine. I can remember those German prisoners saying, Erstein Juden, I'm not Jewish, but Erstein Juden, ich habe Angst. I'd hear them say that. They thought sure as hell that I was going to be the one that was going to get even with them, see. And so I terrorized some of those guys. Just stare at them. I was young and snotty, you know, and just stare at them. And I'd say something in German. Boy, they just minded me like, yeah, it was good. But they really did think that I was sent there to get even. And those jobs would have been helpful. You don't get a chance to explain that, you know. You just, that's your enemy. And a nose is a nose, and my name is Livingston. Oh, you mean Levenstein? the whole thing kind of all fit together for misinterpretation. And so I don't know, I picked up another name and I used that, and Big Vice, no, it was pretty hateful time. Everybody hated everybody. There wasn't any real friendship, except within the group, with our own bunch.
Do you remember what was going on, or what you guys were doing the day that you found out that the war was over?
The day the war ended, played. Must have played the Star Spangled Banner about 100 times. Oh yeah, we just played all the time. And nothing else to do. But I don't remember an awful lot about that. I just remember the war ended. Let's get the hell out of here, huh?
So were you part of the Army of Occupation any at all?
We were there for a short time, yeah. Not very long, no. I guess we were all there for just a short time because it took that long to organize to go. I mean, to load out. Yeah. And they used the MPs for traffic control on that, too. We had a lot of vehicles over there. And I can still hear those tanks roaring, just grinding up the powder, And so no real occupation duty for me. No, they broke us up so fast. We went home and, as a matter of fact, I think we landed in New York, and I was on the train to Fort Sheridan to be discharged. I was out the next day. One big case of watermelon or whatever they had to try to make us feel happy, and then they just got rid of us. No, I have no recollection of that part of the war. It was over.
While y'all were over there with the German civilians, did y'all have any contact with them?
I had a lot of touch with German civilians because here I could speak German. And that was another, I thought that was Yiddish. Just couldn't get away from it. But when I came home, I went to college at Fort Collins, and I remember Mrs. Reitzer was the professor. And when we interpreted the Germans over there, we were in Alsace and Lorraine, and they pronounce everything different. They're not hard like the Berlin, They would say ich habe instead of ich habe. It was a very different kind of language. And so when I was taking German at Fort Collins, Mrs. Reitzer used to just go up the wall. No, it's ich habe, not ich habe. And so I had a lot of habits I had to break in order to please my German teacher. But I'd learned it from Alsace and Lorraine people. Hell, they were just farmers, and yeah. But you got to learn the language. Some guys never did. They'd play jokes with it, They'd get some crackers out or some cheese and try to. You can't. The cheese doesn't talk. So you eventually have to try to learn the language enough to get by. And I had to know enough to speak with some authority of those prisoners, And they paid attention to it. They listened. I spoke with a harsh tone and short sentences, and I didn't know any grammar, so I just used to use short words, and wham, bam, they did what I told them. They knew goddamn well this he was going to get them. That's always been an interesting thing because I couldn't get rid of it. And the name was a dead giveaway. I've changed my name couple times I wore a different name just so I could get off of that binge that I was on there. So it's just a big bad memory in many ways, but lots of good things happened. An awful lot of good things. You met a lot of nice fellas. You met some trash. I mean, when you start drafting the public, you got every kind of a twerp that there ever was, and you got guys that are queer, got guys that are just as honest as can be, guys that would defend you till hell would have it, and you got guys that would shoot you in the back if they had a chance to, and you never knew who they were. So it was an education. One time, that's enough.
What was probably your favorite part of it? I mean, I know that in, like you said, many ways it was bad, but in a lot of ways it was good.
Well,
what was probably your favorite part?
Well, with me, it would have been music, because that was what I was in. And we had a hell of a good band. And we would break up and form. You ever see T5 dances? T4? That's quite a couple. And
It looks odd.
yeah, I know, but they were in love. No, it happens. And then all the German and French girls, God, they wanted to go to the parties wherever we were playing. And the guys, they went for that, you know. And there were some guys that looked upon women in a way I didn't appreciate. They were just targets. But that's war. And I didn't criticize them for it. I was a good boy. And I hate to say it, but I was. No, I don't hate to say it. I'm glad I can say it. But I did things that a good Christian would do. And that other stuff wasn't for me. I knew I was going home.
Anything else that you remember about it, or the trip back, or anything? Was that longer than going there, or?
The trip back on the boat, you mean?
Yes, sir.
That was one big chess game, as far as I remember. And so we got to play on the boat. Sure, we did. Lots of small combo stuff. We didn't have a lot of drunks. I always enjoyed that. Appreciated the fact that we could have a band without a bunch of drunks, because I had been in the business and I knew I knew a lot of hellish good musicians that were drunks, and I didn't see that in service. There was an occasional one, you know, that would always act out some kind of thing. He'd get in town and he'd act like a fool. But the band leader was pretty tough on us and thought performing like grown-ups. I guess everybody thinks about that war as in the funniest way. You just, little things come back. And no use telling my kids about it. I remember my uncle in the First World War was very seriously gassed with mustard gas. And I used to say to him when I was a kid, "Tell us about the war." Never a word. He wouldn't say a thing. He was badly gassed. And so my kids have never asked me about that. Never talk about the war at all. They just want to look at the medals. I said, "It's nothing but a good contact medal." But I didn't have any decorations. Oh, I have two. The unit decorations. The French gave us one. Yeah, the Fourragère. Isn't that funny? You just, those things have vanished. But I wouldn't know what to tell somebody today if they had to go through it. I don't know what I'd tell them. my own son. I'd hate to be the enemy if he were it. He's a powerful guy. And I don't know what I'd tell him. We didn't have any time to prepare for it. No. No, that's pretty much. So then everything I've done since then is academic. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was 35 years before I retired. That's a long time. I had, in botany alone, I had over 14,000 students, just general botany. And then plant pathology, I had another whole bunch. But that was good, you know. I don't remember any time anybody at the university ever asking me about World War. I wouldn't have told them anything anyway. Join it.
Yeah. And you don't. If you have anything else that you remember, any other little
I
things.
can't think of anything else.
Either one of y'all have any questions?
I don't have any connection with anybody in the division, but what's his name? Your boss,
Dr. Williams.
Williams. Yeah, he had my pictures one time. I gave him my whole collection of pictures, and I got them back.
Mm-hmm.
But there was quite a stack of pictures. Oh, I know. Yeah, they were German pictures mostly. I take cameras away from Germans. Oh, some of those pictures that I had in there were something. And so I saved them and had them printed, and that was my collection. So I let him borrow that, and I think he duplicated some of it.
I'm sure he did.
But it was about 2 albums about that thick. Yeah, I just, that was the war. I don't know what your generation's going to say about the next one.
I did have a question about the German prisoners.
Yes.
Did you notice the difference between the SS and the regular German soldiers? What was the difference?
Between the accent of the German prisoners?
Between how they acted towards you,
Oh, no, they always acted well toward me.
even the SS, because of, you know?
They knew damn well. Don't mess with that Hebe. That's an awful stigma, but it's there. And they didn't know my name. But some of their leaders did. Livingston, oh yeah, changed his name. That was pretty prominent. But I was aggressive. And that came across real strongly. You don't want to be meek with German prisoners. Jetzt, now. See? God dang, I'd give it that one, you know. I mean, now. Achtung. And they would do just exactly what I said. But the German people I thought they were very good to us. They wanted the thing to end, too. They'd lost their kids. They were all shot, worn out. Did that answer your question?
Yes. I was wondering because I know that from talking to some other, the SS seemed to be more, not ornery, but just more militant, you know? And they had the tattoo under their arm. And
Oh, the swastika on the arm? Yeah, you know, the Germans could get rid of that with condensed milk. Oh yeah, they always wanted to get some condensed milk and rub it. There was a dye that would come out. And so that was prominent. But, oh yeah, that, Sturmstaffel, yeah, SS. They're the ones that had to worry about, the SS, Sturmstaffel. They were mean. They were dedicated to die for Hitler. Sieg Heil. They'd go stand in front of you and go Sieg Heil. Stand right there in front of you and do that. And you had, that's what you wanted to do. But that wouldn't solve it. No. But the German people welcomed us. We ended the war. And they were very good to us. But the language on the Germans was so different. The Berliners versus the Alsace-Lorraine, the Ich habe and Ich habe. Oh, Mrs. Reitzer, she used to just go through the wall. I would do things just to tease her. I'd say, Ich habe eine Cold. And, oh, she was a real Heine. She was right out of Berlin. But the German kids were good to us. That was their secret. Cogamy. And some of them would pull some foolish things. They'd do some dangerous things to try to get in with us. They'd try to booby trap something. And they'd get hurt themselves. Or it just didn't work or something. But they had that determination. They were Hitler Youth. See, they were Hitler Young, and they had been trained since they were that high. That, hup, hi, ho! They had it so installed in them. They were afraid they weren't going to grow up fast enough to do it. No, it was a rough time. I'm glad it's over. Can you think of anything else?
Not that I can think about, sir.
Okay.
We really appreciate that, Mr. Livingston.
Oh, yeah.